welcome to Shaping the Basin. I am here with Norma Cummings. Norma is the owner of Red Boot Bookkeeping. I'm not sure that's what we're going to talk about today, but I did ask our listeners, our viewers, if they had any questions for you. So I'm going to get started with those first. And one of them was, water is obviously very important to you. Can you explain that in a heart way?
So I have a couple of big things with water. I am very passionate about water. I have been for a number of years. But for me personally, that's my place to reconnect. Water refills my spirit in a way that I really can't explain. It's very calming, and it doesn't matter where I go. If there's water, I'm touching it. And then, for our fish and our animals, water quality is huge. It's just huge. Watching our fish and our large animals and our waterfowl just become unhealthy because of the water quality has been really, really hard. And that is something that I have stood up for we're going on 15 years now. I've been in that battle, and I've met some amazing people through that journey, both through tribes and through agriculture. And it's water for me it's just healing. It's very healing. Even I'll go dance in the rain. However I can get that water I'm happy with it.
I'm friends with you on Facebook. Obviously, we've been friends for a little bit, but I see that you post a lot of pictures when you and you talk about that healing and the mental health part of going and being around a waterfall or a river and stuff. So,
yeah, like I said, it's an opportunity for me. When I was younger and going through tough times, that's where I would go, and I would just throw my cares out to the water. Mm-hmm. And let the water take it. And I would keep one that I thought that I could work through. And by the time I got that one worked through, the rest of them, would work themselves out. But water is just something I've always run to.
I love that analogy. The other question from viewers, we're going to come back to water, I'm sure, and some of that. But the other question had to do with your occupation. And that was, what is the most surprising thing business owners don't know about their finances?
Well, I know this sounds really simple, but some don't know how to generate a report, how to do a profit and loss statement. And that's actually how Red Boot came about. During COVID, there were a lot of grants that were available for small businesses. And a friend of mine had gotten a hold of me, and she says, there's a nonprofit up in Portland that really needs your help. And I said, oh, okay, what do they need? And she says, they're helping small businesses spend some of this grant money, but they've got to have a P&L, and they don't know how to do that. And I said, okay. So I contacted this nonprofit and said, I can help your folks with that. And she asked if I had a business, and I said, not yet, but this is something I've been doing forever. And so I thought about it and came up with Red Boot, and there's a story behind that name, and got a hold of the nonprofit and said, okay, I'm bonded, I'm insured, here's my EIN number, what else do you need? And was able to sit with folks throughout the state of Oregon via Zoom and show them how to do something simple on a spreadsheet, how to track all of their expenses and their income so that they could turn those reports back in to their funding agency. But utilizing reports to be able to project, look at what's selling, look at what's not selling, reconciling your bank statement, which a lot of folks don't even think to do. So yeah, I think the utilizing the reports and It's not just knowing what's in your checking account. It's how you're going to use that money.
Yeah. I think that's right. I think a lot of people are busy running the business itself, and the financial part is, first of all, it's not a lot of people's first nature to be good at that piece. And they've usually had to learn what they know out of necessity, I think, so they don't ever dig in. So that doesn't surprise me. Thanks for doing that. But tell us about, since you brought it up, why did you name it Red Boot?
So a number of years, my mom passed 10 years ago, and it's been over 20 years ago. We were out shopping, and I told her I wanted a new pair of boots. And the ones that I wanted, they were like a cream color, and they didn't have any of those anymore. And we found these red boots, and I just fell in love with them. And my mom's like, I don't know if you can handle red boots. And I'm like, but I love them, Mom. And so my mother had bought them for me for my birthday present. And we would laugh because it was almost like another persona took over when I wear those red boots. And they've been so special to me. And I wanted to include my mother in my business because she had already passed. And so that's where Red Boot came from. And my niece and a heart niece want those boots so bad. And I thought, when I die, maybe they're just going to go with me.
I was going to ask if you still have the boots, but it sounds like you do.
I do.
That's really fun. One of the things I know about you is how important family and connection is to you. You share actually quite a bit about your parents and your sister and all of the people around you. Talk to me a little bit about connections. Just tell me what you think about them.
Well, my family is extremely important to me. Growing up, we spent a lot of time with my grandmother. She worked for my dad. She was my dad's office manager and did his books. And that's where I learned how to do bookkeeping. And at that time, it was on spreadsheets that were so long. And hearing her type, my mom loved to type, and the calculator. And at that time, it was you punched in the numbers and pulled a handle. And I loved the sound of that. But on Sundays, we'd always go to town and have dinner with my grandmother. And my aunt and uncle and my cousins would come over. So our family has always been a very close unit. We had friends growing up that during the summer, they'd spend almost the whole summer with us. A lot of them would spend almost every weekend, so that's always having that connection with family that's our blood, and heart family is what I call those, has always just been a part of my life. And I've been very blessed to make new connections and make new family, so to speak, over the years in meeting folks from all over the place and having something in common, or just enjoying somebody else's company and being able to keep in touch with them.
Mm-hmm. That connection and those relationship building, when I think of you as a leader, that's what I think about, is just the connections that you've made and how well you do that. Earlier, when I asked you about water, you mentioned becoming friends with a lot of people, tribal people, ag people. I'm guessing a lot of people with differing points of view. Mm-hmm. But you do that really well. How do you do that?
I don't know.
You don't know? That's okay.
I'm open to learning all the time. I'm open to others' opinions. There's a reason why folks do what they do, and being able to sit down with somebody, we'll say from ag, during a hard water year, and saying, this is why I feel the way I feel. And what is your perspective on this? What do we have in common? Or how can I help you with water? How can I, do we have a plan to clean? what is the plan? How much, what are you losing in this? Because I can tell you what we've lost. I can tell you how long our tribe has been here. And I respect the fact that your family's been here for 100 years. But that's just a drop in the water bucket, so to say, when we've been here for millennia. So I'm always open to having those conversations. And back during the KBRA days, things got really, really hairy in the Klamath Basin, and this is where we held all of our meetings. But I'd opened up my Facebook. I grew up with a lot of these folks that are in ag and have known them the majority of my life. And I've opened up my Facebook and said, hey, let's have dialogue. I have one requirement. Everything that we talk about will be done so respectfully. And if you can't be respectful, you get blocked and you get kicked off my page is basically what happens. But, I've been able to learn a lot from folks that think differently than I do. And I don't know that there's a right way or a wrong way. I know that there's not just one way, and it's going to take all of us. It's going to take the whole community to be able to accomplish what we need to. And I truly believe that nobody's going to get everything they want, but if we can get what we need, and I mean that for everybody as a community, if we can all get what we need, it's just going to be so much better. And we all have a list of wants, and I think that's just human nature. But coming together and having that common respect for one another, being open, listening, and truly listening without just listening for a break so that you can jump in. I think that makes a lot of difference.
I respect. I always think of the strength that you have and you display that. I've seen it on your Facebook, not to keep coming back to Facebook, but a lot happens there. Let's face it. I've seen you very kindly, but with strength, shut down when conversations are going to a really negative place. So you display that strength a lot.
Thank you.
What do you think needs to happen in our community to move forward to a great place? And is it starting to happen now, do you feel like?
I think we've come a long ways. There's new ideas out there. There's groups working together that haven't necessarily worked together before. There's been quite a bit of grant money that has come into the community, and being able to see the bigger picture. We've got some folks in ag that are working with wetlands right now and trying to clean that water before it comes back into the main stem or into the lake. And I get really emotional over that because to me, that's huge. And with it being non-tribal people that are doing that, just makes me happy, and it gives me a lot of hope. So again, it's building those relationships. It's bringing everybody back to the table. Again, after KBRA, there was so much work that was put into that. And when it didn't pass, I think everybody was exhausted. That was heart, mind, body, spirit work for everybody that was involved. And I think everybody just really needed a break. And now to see folks coming back to the table again, some of the former organizations that were there, some new organizations, new folks in leadership, I think that's made a big difference. But again, I think it comes back to the collaboration and having those grant dollars to be able to get the science involved and to come back to some of our traditional ways of being able to do stuff, and it's working together. Mm-hmm. So I'm really excited to see where we're going to go and what's in store next.
Said I'm all about it. Yeah, I'm all about it. Said I'm all about it. Yeah. Said I'm
a picture says 1,000 words. Imagine the story. 24 frames a second. Can tell about your business. 40 Deuce Films.
Talking about the KBRA times, I know talking to people that were a part of that process from all different sides, that I think you're spot on. They get emotional when they talk about that time and just the amount of soul and heart that they put into it for that. But it is, they say the same thing. When I talk to people, they feel optimistic about where we are now and maybe where we're headed. So your tribal culture is important to you, and I'm kind of new to the community. I grew up in Southwest Colorado, but tell me something I and maybe other people don't know that you'd want us to know about the tribal culture here.
Well, again, we've been here since millennia, and I think one big thing for us right now is the dam removals. The 4 dams that have come down on the Klamath River, and the opportunity to have salmon back up here. The necklace that I'm wearing today, I had commissioned by a tribal member, and there are over 100 salmon beads on this necklace. And those salmon each represent a year that we have gone without salmon here in the Upper Basin. And, that work, seeing salmon down there at the former Iron Gate, not getting off on the last tributary and just hitting their heads up against that dam and knowing that there was someplace else for them to be, it broke my heart. And I had told my friend at that day, I said, whatever it is that we need to do, I'm in. I don't care what it is, I'm in. And watching those dams come out and salmon coming back, just shortly after the last dam had come out, I went out there to Spencer Creek, and it was just amazing, to see them coming up and to see them spawn. And I was standing there, and I'd called them in our language, it's Charles, and 3 of them came rushing over, and I wanted to jump into the river and hold them and hug them and, just love on them and welcome them home. For me, that's a big part of our culture. And we just had our Chwam ceremony a couple of weeks ago, and the decline in those fish and the stories that have been passed on to us is that, Creator gave us those fish to sustain us, and that if those fish die, our tribe dies too. So I know that folks joke around about that, but we take those things seriously. And that is a part of our culture that, is it for some, it's almost a joke, along with the salmon returning. And it's unfortunate to see or hear, but, we hold fast to those. We hold fast to the stories that have been passed down through generations and generations on what our responsibilities are, and we have to be the voice for the animals because they can't speak. So we have to be their voice. We have to be the voice of the water. We have to be the voice of the land. This is our home, and it always will be, so it's up to us to ensure that we're doing absolutely everything that we can to sustain all that was given to us.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of the salmon, there's a run.
Mhm.
Tell me about the run.
So this is the 23rd year, I want to say, of a prayer run. And it's called the Salmon Prayer Run. It starts down at the mouth of the Klamath River in Klamath, California. And we run all the way up to the head of the Wood River. There's also another leg that takes off and they run the Trinity River. So I think it's somewhere between 450 and 475 miles that we literally run. And there were some young gals downriver who had started this run after a big fish kill down there. And it's our way to be able to, again, pray for our fish, pray for our water, pray for our communities. And that's a long ways to run. You know, we've got a core group of folks that they come all the way up. Others just run for the day through their tribal communities. And it's very significant. You know, it allows you, we carry wooden fish, and that is symbolic of the salmon coming up river. And I was gifted a cedar salmon a couple of years ago, and that poor guy, I went down for the full run, and by the time we got him back up here, he'd been dropped, he was chipped, he was just beat up. And I just sat there and started laughing, and I thought, well, that's what it's going to be like the first time that they make it all the way home. They're going to have to fight. They're just going to have to fight to get through everything to get here. And total, we probably have, including children, I would say about 1,500 people that show up for the run total throughout the 4 days. We have anywhere from babies being tied on to their moms or their fathers, and just running and their little heads are bobbing around, to being pushed in strollers, to elders that are in their late 80s, early 90s, walking with us. That run is actually coming up May 22nd through the 25th, and we will be running through Klamath County beginning the 24th. Our section picks up at the former Iron Gate Dam, and we run over Topsy Ridge and drop into Keno and spend the night there, and then we pick up again and start running Sunday morning, and we'll run over to Moore Park, and we'll boat probably about 6 of our runners, depending on the size of the boat, across Klamath Lake, and then our other runners will pick up at Modoc Point, so we're not running on Highway 97. There's some folks from downriver that'll bring us up salmon, and we cook that traditionally and have a big feast after the run. But it's one of the very first runs that I ever got involved in, and that was 10 years ago. And it's a time for community, a time for prayer. And we pray for all of the communities as we're running through. So I'm really happy to be a part of that.
That's cool. Have you run it?
Have I run in it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you do it all or a section?
So we do it relay style.
Okay.
So some folks will say, oh, I'm just running telephone pole to telephone pole. Those kids that we get, they'll put in 3 to 5 miles. If they're feeling it, they just don't stop. But we hand off those salmon to the runners next in line. And I usually do like a quarter of a mile. I'm not a runner. I'm a hiker. I don't run. I don't. It's just not my thing.
I feel that.
But I will get out and I will walk. I will jog a little bit. And, excuse me. And I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of That's okay. I'm trying to think of the timing. So the dams have come down and there have been some some salmon that have made it up. Will this year's run be the first since then, or was last year's since that time? I don't remember what time of the year the dam came down.
So the dam came down in October.
Okay.
And a few weeks afterwards is when we started seeing salmon. And it wasn't even a few weeks. It was sooner than that. And we had gone down to Wairika to have a dam removal celebration. And I had seen one of the scientists from the Yurok tribe. And he says, I've got such exciting news. And I said, what is it? And he says, well, I'm going to announce it when I speak. And I said, oh. He says, I can't wait. He says, we spotted the first salmon cross last night. I'm like, what? And, we all just started crying. And I didn't think that I'd see salmon returning to the Upper Klamath Basin in my lifetime. I knew that those dams had to come down, and that was a big fight of mine. But I didn't know if, I'd see them in my lifetime. And it's just phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. So that happened in October, and then this run that's getting ready to happen in May. So this really will be the first run, the first run of this one to happen since the dam.
It'll be the
down.
first prayer run.
So is that changing the feel of this run as you prepare for it?
We are all very excited. I've come up with something new every year, like flowing free in 2023, dams no more in 2024. And then they happened. And I think this year's theme is undammed, is the theme that we're going with. And the artwork will be drawn around that theme. But yeah, some of these kids, some of these folks that are coming, the last time that they were there, the dams were there as well. Mm-hmm. So we'll have an opportunity to see, for the most part, a free-flowing river. Now, there's still 2 dams that are on the Klamath River. One is out there in Keno, and the other one is here at Link River. And I don't know what's going to happen with those 2. There has been conversation about removing the Keno Dam, but again, there's going to be a lot of collaboration that's going to have to come in on that. And as far as I know, Link River is supposed to stay. I believe that salmon, they're supposed to be able to get over those fish ladders. So as long as they can get home, I'm okay with that.
Very neat. Going back, just one thing, you mentioned the KBRA, and I'm not sure all of our viewers understand what the KBRA was, and it was the Klamath Basin Restoration Agreement.
Yes.
Just quickly, in a nutshell, what was the KBRA?
A lot. So there were several components in that regarding water and dam removal, land back, secured power rates for ag. I think there was a component in there for a secured, almost a guaranteed amount of water every year for ag. There were a lot of moving in different pieces that everybody involved, from the mouth of the river to the head of the river, that's a lot of different communities. Mm-hmm. And I don't even remember how long we had worked on that, but there were a lot of moving pieces in that.
Yeah, it was kind of a negotiated settlement, right? Like
Yeah.
everybody kind of came together and everybody got a little bit of what they wanted, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
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 Well, thank you for that. Going back to the runs, there's the salmon run, but you just finished another one. I think, were you in Arizona for a run recently?
Yes. My son and I and some friends went out to San Carlos, Arizona, and did a run out there. And that was with the Apache tribe. You caught me off guard on that one. They are in a fight right now regarding copper, going through their homelands and trying to do whatever they can to stay whole in all of that. We were out there for 3 days, and the land out there was it was absolutely beautiful. And all tribes have their own culture, and being able to see what they do for their ceremonies out there was just absolutely amazing. And again, kind of a relay style run where, folks will just run for a half a mile, 5 miles, whatever it is. But I'm hoping to be able to get back out in that territory again next year and continue to stand with them in solidarity for what they're going through with the copper mines out there.
Yeah. Well, thank you for all that you do. And thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here today. I appreciate you sharing some of the stories and sharing your insights and your leadership with us. I have 3 questions to wrap it up, kind of fun. If I were to give you $250,000 today to make a difference in our community, what would you do with it?
I would start a nonprofit. And I know you can't really do this, but it would be a nonprofit without boundaries, to where whatever the need was, whoever, regardless of who you are, if you needed help one time because you were short on your rent, or you ran out of food, or you ran out of gas, you had family that came in, you needed to travel across the United States because you have a family emergency and you need help to be able to get back out there. You need meds. It would be something without boundaries to be able to give back fully to this community that I was born and raised in.
That's very nice. I know you love hiking. We share that. What's your favorite hiking trail in Klamath County?
I love Mount Scott. Mount Scott for me was huge. It's up there at Crater Lake, and you can see that mountain from here in town. And I've hiked that, I believe, 3 times now. But just the view that you get up there, you get to see all of Klamath County. For me, it was a challenging hike. For others that hiked with us up there, they just, they took off. It was easy for them. But that is one of my favorite hikes, and being able to see that mountain from so far away and knowing that I made it up there. I made it up there to the top of that mountain. That's probably one of my biggest accomplishments up there. But I enjoy all of the trails that we have, whether they're difficult or just a little stroll along Link River. But Mount Scott is probably one of my favorites.
All right. We have beautiful hiking around
Yes.
here. And I love that we don't have to go very far.
Yes.
That's one of my other favorites. All right. And then last question. Tell me about one of your role models.
So I think they're women. And that would be my grandmother, my aunt, and my mother, and my son. Those are my role models. The women in my family paved the road for me. My grandmother, again, got me interested in keeping books. My aunt was a business owner. My mom also was a business owner. And my son just encourages me to be better every day. And um, he's just accomplished so much. And, you know, ultimately right now, out of the ones that are, you know, because my grandmother, my aunt, my mom, and my father, they've all passed. But, you know, my child he's a huge role model for me.
That's awesome. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Heather. I appreciate it.
And thank you to our sponsors, Running Lie Resort and 40 Deuce Films.